Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over updated Fibonacci levels for the Grayscale trusts. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so I'm actually going to I just realized this, I'm actually also going to remove one of the EMAs, and we're going to go over the Bollinger Bands as well, so we can kind of take a look on the macro time frame and see if maybe there's a reversal on the horizon. So let's take a look at that first. We'll go down to the daily time frame here on LTCN. As you guys can see, LTCN has, well, it's sitting at the bottom of the Bollinger Band. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to bounce, but as you guys can see, every time it gets close to there, it does actually have a pretty substantial bounce. We are close to the bottom of that, so I do want to point that out. So the focus of the video today is not really the Bollinger Bands, but I do just kind of want to point that out in case something pops up, which I have not viewed all these yet. So anyways, let's go ahead and do the Fibonacci's. So basically what we're looking for here is a bull retracement Fibonacci, and what this is going to be is it's going to be a retracement from the previous swing high to the previous swing low. Now I cannot tell you guys for sure, even though this hammer candle off of this macro support line looks very bullish, I cannot tell you guys for sure that that is a guarantee that it's going to go up to new all-time highs from here or even past this previous swing high, but we're going to talk about it anyways. Right, so these are the updated Fibonacci's. Basically, we're looking for kind of shorter and or midterm profit target levels based on this. So this is not necessarily all-time highs for the Grayscale Trust, but this might be like, maybe 6 months out, 12 months out, maybe even 3 months out. So 1.618, $78, 2.618, 116, 3.618, 153, and 4.618 is $180 respectively. So pretty large moves. I mean, if it just went to, let's say, the 2.618, I mean, at this point, you're looking at roughly about a 6x, 3.618. You'd be looking at almost pretty close to an 8x at that point. And as you guys can see, this big resistance level here is also kind of in between roughly the 2.6 and 3.618. So that's in terms of midterm levels. Again, we've already gone over previous basically macro size levels. If you guys haven't seen that, go check that out. And that's called something like Grayscale Max Profit Targets or something like that. You can find it on our channel. You'll be able to look at it for yourself. But once again, once it gets above this level, I suspect it's probably going to go somewhere between $300 to about maybe $400 and kind of bob around in that range before it potentially breaks out to new all-time highs if it does. So those are the current LTCN Fibonacci's. Now we're going to go over to BCHG. So we're going to do a similar thing here. So basically from the swing high to the swing low, and that's assuming this is the swing low. There's no guarantees it is, but the way that we'll know it that it's actually the swing low is if the price gets above and it closes above the bearish structure. So we have a high, a low, a higher low, or I should say a lower high and a lower low. So pretty much what we're looking for is a candle close roughly about 1350. So pretty much right above these candle bodies here. If we get a candle close above that from this point, then we know that this was the low. So in terms of the Bollinger Bands, I'll just pop down here to the daily. We'll kind of take a look at this because I know a lot of you guys are actually in LTCN and BCHG specifically. So as you guys can see, the price did get outside of the bands. So generally speaking, when that happens, that does indicate this thing is oversold. The RSI reflects that. As you can see, last time we got something even close to that at $9 here, we went from $9 to $15, and then this one wasn't such a big move from 10 to 12. But the RSI wasn't really oversold on the dailies, so I would say, and we also didn't have a candle close outside of the Bollinger Band, so I would say this close outside of the bands here is more significant in this case. All right, so again, swing high to swing low here, roughly about as accurate as I can get it. So what are the levels? Well, we're taking a look at the 1.618 at 34, 2.618, $49, or I should say $50, 3.618, $67, and 4.618, $76.50 respectively. The 2.618 and 3.618 is roughly about the middle of the previous all-time high, as you guys were able to see previously. So HSEN going to do a very similar thing here. I don't think the current price is at, or I should say the current swing low is at where the current price is. However, I will just tell you guys that if that is the case, the Fibonacci price targets would be about 15, 22, 29, and 33 respectively. But since I don't think this is actually the low, what I'm going to go ahead and do is basically just do a macro high to macro low Fibonacci retracement, since this would be the most current one. Because again, we don't have the swing low in yet, so we kind of need to be on the lookout for that. But in the current case, this would be roughly about $48, $78, $109, and $127.50 respectively on HSEN. Pretty huge price targets. I don't know that it goes to the top fib level, but it's definitely a possibility in my opinion. So ETCG, we'll do this one as well. This little bounce that we saw here on ETCG, this could possibly be a bottom because we do have a double bottom, as you guys can see here. So we have one bottom, two bottoms. Generally speaking, if we get a bounce from that point, that is a very, very bullish price pattern. So double tops, like in this case, you have a double top here. So one top, two tops, that's bearish, it went down. One bottom, two bottoms, that's bullish, it should go up, right? So if that's the case, 1.618 would be at roughly about 24.5, 2.618, 32.5, 3.618 about 40.50, and 4.618 is roughly about $46. So ETCG, you guys can see this thing hit the top of the Bollinger Band. Last time we got massively outside of this, we did have a pretty substantial sell-off. We did just see a candle close outside of it again. So it's possible it could either pull back or pull back in time, meaning it just kind of goes sideways and does nothing while the indicators reset. So I've said before that I think this right here is possibly a double top. We'll just have to wait and see on that. I would say likely the bottom is not going to be in. But if it is in, okay, 1.618 would be $43, 2.618 $54, 3.618 $65, and 4.618 is going to be roughly about $72. So since I don't think that the low is in on ETCG, we're going to go ahead and measure pretty much, I would say roughly about the macro swing, or the macro high to the macro low. So again, those levels are $107, $172, $236, and $277. We'll just round it up and say $280 respectively. Now, if the spot Ether ETFs come out as actual listings and start getting traded next week, it's possible it may pull back a little bit more or just simply take off to the upside. If it's similar to the spot ETFs for Bitcoin, based on the actual approval and even like I'd say the first couple of weeks of it trading, likely it might just kind of sell off a little bit and then we might see a big rip from there. That's what I think is going to happen. No guarantees, but that's what I think. So it's possible on PhilG that likely where the current price is sitting is actually the low. Now I know before I've said that this is a shooting star candle, it's very bearish. And I do expect it to go lower. Okay, I do. But we also have this inverse head and shoulders pattern here, and it is kind of touching this trend line, which indicates there is also a possibility of a breakout and heading up to that target, which is this white top of this white line right here. So the targets for that would be $600, $900, roughly about, looks like about $1,210 and $1,400 respectively on PhilG. So GBAT, I don't know that the low is in for GBAT, but again, we can really only measure this one of two ways, from the macro low or macro high to the macro low, or from a swing high to a swing low. And since the previous high was actually the macro high, or I shouldn't say the macro high, but the all-time high at that point in time, the only way that I can really measure this for you guys is to go from the previous swing high to the pretty much current swing low. Let's actually just measure this down and say that the bottom is roughly about where the bottom of these candles are here. So maybe we get some kind of double bottom formation and then boom, it pops to the upside. So if that's the case, then the 1.618 would be 28.5, 2.618 would be $41, 3.618 would be about $54, and 4.618 would be $62 respectively. Nothing noticeable here on the Bollinger Bands. I'll go back here again. Same thing with Phil G. We already went over ETH, so there's that. So GLIV, I don't think that this thing has hit a low yet. I also don't think that this all-time high that we saw back here is actually going to be the true all-time high. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to measure from the previous swing high and go to where I presume the low is going to be, which probably will be somewhere around this support range. So 1.618 would be $75, 2.618, $113, 3.618 is $152, and the 4.236, I keep calling it 618, but it's actually 4.236 is $175. So if this thing just went from where it is currently, let's say to the, I don't know, to the 3.618, which again, I think is possible. I mean, that's still a 6x on your money. It's possible to get that in the traditional stock market, but you would have to invest early into something like Nvidia or Tesla or something that's small in market cap that could go to like a mega cap size, or like some penny stocks or something like that. And you would have to obviously know a lot more about that, like company fundamentals, how it could potentially change and dominate the market, news catalysts, earnings, cash flow, all kinds of different stuff that you would have to look at to really be able to even have an edge at maybe getting a 6x on a micro cap stock of some kind. So G-Link, we're not really at the top or the bottom of the bands. I don't think that this is the all-time high for G-Link, and we don't have a previous all-time high here, so we're going to do the same thing, measure from the previous swing high to the presumed low, which I presume is going to be somewhere around the support range. So if that's the case, 1.618 would be $192, 2.618 would be $267, let's say, 3.618, $345, and 4.236 would be about $390 on G-Link, or also known as Chainlink in the native space. GSOL, this is kind of a tough one. So we have our all-time high here, and then we have this shooting, massively ugly looking shooting star candle here, which is very, very, very bearish in my opinion. We're also not at the bottom of the Bollinger Bands, and the RSI is just barely below oversold, and the MACD is massively above the zero levels. So I could, based on technicals, I could say that this likely is going to come back down to support. So the only real way for me to measure this for you guys is basically to take the previous all-time high swing high and just assume, like, let's say maybe it gets down to the bottom of this wick here on this candle as potentially a double bottom. If that was the case, these are the targets we'd be looking at for new all-time highs. So $835, $1,240, $1,630, and $1,900 respectively. Again, we would need to see a break of basically about 470 with a candle close above to confirm the actual previous swing low for the Fibonacci retracement to actually make perfect sense, to know where our next level is going to be. So GXLM, again, just kind of in the middle of the bands, not really oversold, not really overbought. In this instance, I would say I'm just gonna take a wild guess here and say I think roughly about $20 could potentially be like the absolute low. Maybe it hits this line down here and gets like a wick down or something like this time right here or this time, and then bounces and closes back above. So maybe $20 is going to be the absolute low here. So in terms of swing lows, to let's say it gets down to the $20 level, somewhere in there. If that's the case, if that's what turns out to happen, your 1.618 is going to be about $98. Again, that's kind of at the top of this resistance. 2.618, 147, 3.618, 195, and 4.236, roughly about $225. So the Fibonacci high up here would be roughly about, I say about a 7x. 7x is still pretty good. Like I said before, if you get anything from a 5 to a 10x in crypto, that's a great trade, okay, or a great investment. If you get above a 10x, like 20, 30x, that's an exceptional trade. If you get a 50x, that's a home run. And if you get 100 plus x, dude, you're balling. That's like beyond a grand slam at that point. All right, so mana. I do think that there is a chance that mana could actually bounce off of this support zone. So I don't know for sure that this is going to be the swing low, but we'll use this as the swing low for now until we get confirmation. Again, last time it tested this area, you can see that the bulls did not let it close below this level. This was also previous resistance. So there's good reason to believe this could potentially be the bottom right now. But again, in order to actually confirm that it's the bottom, we need to get basically above this 0.23 level here, which you can see this candle top on this red candle, about $31. If we get a candle close above that, that indicates a change in structure, which would then reverse this from a bear trend to a bull trend. So if this was the case, then the new levels that we'd be looking at would be on the first fib, 103, second fib would be 152, third fib 202, and fourth fib would be about 235. So these are the updated Fibonacci levels. Again, I suspect the Grayscale trusts, some of these will pop off when Bitcoin hits its new all-time highs. Some of them will pop off when Bitcoin dominance drops, which means that money flows from Bitcoin into altcoins. That is my assumption. Okay, the ones that I think that are likely going to pop off with Bitcoin when Bitcoin hits new all-time highs, probably roughly around the end of this year, which makes sense. We have presidential elections, midterms, the Fed's seats potentially are up for grabs as well, because if Trump gets elected, which I think he will, actually, I'm not going to say I think he will. I'm nearly 100% positive at this point that he's going to. There's a close correlation between the chairman of the Fed and the president. That's always been the historical norm. So if Trump gets elected and he's not satisfied with Powell, he could just simply fire Powell and get rid of him and get somebody else. So, that's probably going to scare Powell and the Fed a little bit, even the Fed members. And I would say likely they're probably going to cut rates around that time. Even if they weren't planning to, they're going to do it anyways because they don't want to lose their jobs. You know what I mean? So pretty much we're looking for Bitcoin to get to new all-time highs. So in terms of candle closes, we would want to see a candle close above 71,170 at this point. If we get a candle close above that, we know Bitcoin's going to all-time highs. The funds from Grayscale that will likely push to all-time highs with it. Again, this is just my opinion, but Bitcoin Cash and Litecoin are oscillators to Bitcoin. So BCHD and LTCN will go up during this time, in my opinion. Again, nothing's guaranteed, but I suspect that's what's going to happen. And all of the other Grayscale trusts likely will go up either when the spot Ether ETFs get approved and Ethereum goes to all-time highs, and or when money flows from Bitcoin into the altcoins. And the altcoins could include Ethereum. And again, what we're looking for those trusts to fly to all-time highs is what we're looking for in that case for a lot of these other altcoin-related Grayscale trusts to fly to all-time highs is Bitcoin tops out, kind of chops around, and then the money flows out of Bitcoin during that time frame into Ethereum and alts, moonshot, and then we see that reflected here in the price action of the Bitcoin dominance. Again, we're looking for a break below the falling wedge here. As long as Bitcoin dominance is going up, Bitcoin dominates the market. When Bitcoin dominance falls off a cliff, altcoin dominance dominates the market. So we saw this previously here. Okay, so Bitcoin go up, Bitcoin dominance goes up. Oh, guess what? Money flows from Bitcoin into altcoins. Oh, Bitcoin dominance go down. Oh, Bitcoin dominance chops sideways, choppy chop. And then, oh, Bitcoin really go down, right? Or I should say Bitcoin dominance really go down. So that's kind of what we're looking for. And again, Bitcoin, BCHG, and LTCN, Ethereum and altcoins, Bitcoin dominance dropping, the rest of the Grayscale trusts. That's what I suspect is likely going to happen when they start moonshotting to all-time highs. So anyways, this is the updated Fibonacci's for the Grayscale trusts. Hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.